I'm going to take a second to reiterate why you care. Number one, these things are on your final. They're not just top 20 items. They are things that you will have on your final, meaning that these little base skills are in the final. Number two, they're on the ACT. Number three, what if you're already into the college you want? They're on your college placement test to figure out what math class to put you in. These are worth knowing. So how do you start this one? A lot of people say subtract 2/3. I disagree. I used to say that as a math teacher, but I saw the light. I was told by one of the calculus teachers, they said, it's so much better to just clear the fractions out. So just teach the kids to multiply by the denominator. So we got to multiply by 3 and 2, but I'm going to choose to multiply by 3 first. If you're really extra fancy, and some of you are, you can multiply by both denominators at the same time. And it's one step that way. It saves you time. So this 2 cancels this 2. And this is now 3 times 1 times n, which is 3n. Plus this 3 cancels this 3. The 2 times the 2 is still 4. And 2 times 3 is 6 times 2 is 12. And if you can't solve from there, you're in the wrong class. You know how to solve from there. Okay? All right, next one, this one. I shouldn't have to tell you, but do you notice that they're all even? That tells you something. There's a GC what? GCF. And it's 2. And so you factor out that 2. Just do that. Don't try to do too many steps at once. Just take the 2 out. Then it'll factor again. And if you never learned my favorite saying, you weren't paying attention. If you can factor it, you should. So this 2 comes out and I got 2x squared plus 3x plus 1. And apparently that factors. Yes, it does. 2 still in front. And then I got 2 sets of parentheses. And it has to start with something. And if you think about it, to make it 2x squared, you have to start with something and something. And then you look at your signs, and these are all positives. Come on, Mr. Sarah, that's not even hard. It has to be positives then. And 1, oh my gosh, you couldn't make it any easier. It has to be a 1 and a 1. This was a 2x and an x, and there you go. Now, you can assume all of that, but you really should check it. What's 1 times x? It's x. What's 2x times 1? 2x. That makes 3x, and that's what I wanted. So now I factored it. Now, if the actual answer was supposed to be what makes that equal 0, see at the end there, equals 0, then you technically need to finish. X needs to equal -1. And for that one, 2x plus 1 needs to equal 0. 2x needs to equal -1. X is -1/2. All right, last but not least, this guy. Why does that combination of things exist? Because x equals -b. Plus or minus, see it there? The square root, see, it's a quadratic formula one. But this can be simplified, and a lot of times they can. So, that's square root 27. Riker, what's it break into?
3 and 9.
Yeah, they're both square roots, so don't make that mistake. This is 3 plus and minus. This was root 3 and root 9. And then it's all over 12. There, I did one step. That's a great start. Now, what do you see that could be simplified further? That. And what's that equal to? 3. So I can just squeeze a 3 in the front of this and get rid of that, because square root of 9 is 3. Now, I'm going to side note over here. See, some people are like, yeah, square root of 9 is 2 things, because my teacher told me that this is plus and minus 9, or plus and minus 3. Nope, that was wrong. Your teacher taught you wrong. A reminder on that kind. Absolute value of x is positive 3. The square root of 9 is just one thing. It's 3. Now, this can be broken into 2 answers. X equals 3 and x equals -3. If you ever find yourself doing a square root, any even root, of a variable, don't forget these guys. It'll be on the final. Guaranteed. Square root on both sides. Remember the absolute value, because then you'll get 2 answers. Okay, so back to this guy. We only got 1 answer. Why? Because we were square rooting a number, not a variable. All right. And now I have a 3 in both of these things. And it's hard to see that, but that's got 3's on the top, which can be factored out. Go ahead and finish this puppy, do the final canceling, and then write down what you think it is. Compare with the kid next to you. You got a kid in row 1 and 2 right across from each other, or diagonally at least. Yes, you do factor the bottom. Because if you can factor it, you should. You factor the 12 into 3 times 4. And then look, doink, doink. And there's your answer. 1 plus and minus root 3, all over 4. Now, on the Schoology quiz, where you're actually being graded for your final here, they ask for 3 things. What's in front of the plus minus? What's after the plus minus? And you'd say SQRT3 in parentheses, although I think it's maybe both ways. It'll say how to write that. And this is the third thing you'd put in is what's on the bottom of the fraction, which is a 4. So you'd enter those 3 things. All right. So there's a lot of top 20 things. 2 that I want to remind you about, distance formula and midpoint. I'm going to give you 2 points, 2, 8, 10, 10. And I'd like you to figure the distance between them and the midpoint between them. I'll pause while you give this to a try. Okay, it's just handy to know the Fight Club. The X's are fighting the X's, and the Y's are fighting the Y's, but they're squared up, easy to forget that. And there's only one plus sign in the whole problem. It's in there, okay? Now I'm going to put in my X's, and I get to put them either way I want. So I choose, I got a 10 and a 2. I'd rather do 10 minus 2 because it just feels easier to me. That was the X here and the X here. And then I'm going to do, for my Y's, I'm going to do 10 minus the 8. So then this is 8 squared, which is square root of 64. Can I just do that and get 8? No, you can't, because the order of operations says you got to do what's inside first. And now I got 10 minus 8 is 2 squared is 4. So that's square root of 68. Now, that could, and I can't see it, that could break up into 4 times something, which it might. In other words, could this be simplified? That's my only question. It can. Somebody found it. Well, 4 goes into 68, I'm pretty sure. And the reason that matters is then you could go root 4 and root something. What is it? 17. Awesome. Nice catch. So that's 2 root 17. Now, on the test, I would not make you have simplified something that is that intense. But do you see how it could have, if you had noticed? See, I knew it was even. Do you know the trick for seeing if 4 goes into something? If it's even and you divide it by 2 and it's still even, then you can divide it by 2 again, and that means 4 goes into it. If you can divide it by 2 twice, then 4 goes into it. So you divide 68 in half, would be 34, and then you go, oh, it's even again. That means 2 goes into it again. If 2 goes into it twice, then 4 goes into it. All right, enough about that. And then the midpoint. That's really easy. It's what's exactly in the middle of 2 and 10. Well, I know that's hard to just picture in your head, so you add them together and divide by 2. 12 divided by 2 is 6, comma. 8 and 10 is 18. Half of that's 9. Well, right between 8 and 10 is 9. That's easy. So the midpoint is what's exactly between them. So there you go. Average the x's, average the y's, 6, 9. I am ready. Are you ready? Okay. Now, what happens if this doesn't go well? I did tell you it's worth a lot of points. It is. It's going to affect your grade if it's bad. If it's good, it's going to affect your grade too. So if it's bad, what do? You can retake it. You just got to talk to me about it. And here's the key, though. This has to be done under my supervision, as in you can't just, don't put away your iPads yet because you're actually taking it on the iPad. So don't just think, I'll just do a retake at home where my brother can help me. No, you have to do it here. You have to do the retake with me or it's not going to count as a retake. Okay, so If that happens, then ask me, and I'll open up another one in a separate, only you'll be able to see a second version of it. Okay, so if that happens, just say something, say, I'd like to take another one. And then in class, we got tons of review days. One of these days, we'll just take another one. All right, last thought before we go to the actual top 20 is the first couple pages of that packet are about this, and I think you might have forgot how to do these. That is called an exponential because it's got an x in the exponent. But do you remember some of these vague, or no, not vague, some of these terms? Well, do you know where the start value is? Do you remember that? That's where the start value is. Okay, so or in the initial value. Okay. Next thing is, look at that 1 minus 0.3 and tell me, is this thing going to grow or shrink? It's going to shrink. Okay. And then that means it's exponential decay. Good. And the next terminology is the growth factor or decay factor. And that's this whole thing. But the rate is just this part. So that's the rate, 30% decay in this case. So the rate is right there. The start value is at the very beginning. And if you are given an end value, the end value will go here. That's what you get at the end of, this is usually time. Okay, so the first page or two is logs, which we've just been tested on, so I think you'll be fine on that. So the first 2 pages of the packet is what I would get done first. I mean, there's lots of pages. And good news, I looked it over, I thought about it, and I decided I'm not going to assign the entire packet. Even though we have tons of time, I never wasted your time this year, so I'm not going to waste your time now. I recommend that you do about half. But it's so complicated to figure out, like, evens when you have problem 1 and it's got A, B, C, D, E, F. Like, how the heck do you tell kids to do the evens on that? So, when there's a problem that's got multiple parts, do about half of them. Okay, so you pick the ones that you feel like are appropriate. When you're done, I'll look at your packet and I'll go, oh, he skipped all of problem 7. That's not good. He should have done half of problem 7. You know what I mean? To do half of all of the problems. If you have one extra problem you skip, it's not that big of a deal. But I know there's going to be some people who take it seriously and do their review and they'll do fine in the final. And there's other people who will have, like, they won't even turn it in because they'll be embarrassed because they didn't do anything. Just understand, if I'm making a final call on your grade and it's really close, will I look at that? Yeah, I'm going to go, oh, Mason did his whole packet. He did every other problem. He's good about reviewing for it. Yeah, I'll give him the break. It's going to be one of those moments where you don't want to have just not done your homework when I'm trying to decide, did they try hard? Well, they didn't even do the review packet. No, they didn't try hard. Okay, so it's worth doing your review packet because it'll help you for the final, and it's going to be fresh in my mind as I am deciding, should I bump it or not? Okay, so just trying to give you strategy. Be smart. Do the review packet, but about half of it. So there we go, and that's all I have for you for today.